Coming up on this episode of the Hockey Nuts, Steve and I get you caught up with all of the news of the past 10 days around the hockey world. We are approaching the annual Christmas break, and the standings remain as tight as ever. There have been some injuries to some big names around the league that will likely affect their spots in the standings. And there were several individual milestones reached this week as well. We'll have the details of all of this, plus the Minor League Hockey Minute, the NCAA Hockey Minute, and our picks of the week coming up next. This is the Hockey Nuts Podcast, Season 2, Episode 17, recorded on Saturday, December 16th, 2017. Too Many Men Curse Strikes Again.
Shut up and sit down.
We're in the top of the fifth. Marchessault off the goalpost. Square.
You know, guys have started to shoot pucks earlier in the shootout. It was deking being the preference. And okay, I'll say it again. Phil DiGiuseppe back in the lineup. Here it comes, the magic moment for Ward.
Phil DiGiuseppe now with an opportunity to win it for the Hurricanes. He walks in, he scores! Hey, what do you say? 300 for Cam Ward as they win this one in a shootout.
Devils have the puck inside the Ranger zone. Will Butcher down from his left point spot. He's sure along the boards. Good play by Jesper Fast. We say that so often, but especially in those small spaces, Fast effective as he starts it out.
And the Rangers made a line change. They got this line, the Hayes line, back out there against the Heischer line.
Good play by Nash, and they score! Kevin Hayes off the beneficiary of Rick Nash's hard work. Behind the net, Hayes cashes in. It's 5-2 Rangers.
Hickey swivels away from Pastrnak. Now darts around DeBrusk, gives the puck away to Krug, though. Krug 4-on-3 over the line. Pastrnak across the middle. DeBrusk trying to knock it out of the air as Pelech got back. Here's DeBrusk swiveling, and he scores! Jake DeBrusk back from the box puts the Bruins ahead 2-0.
All right, hello and welcome to a special edition of the Hockey Nuts Podcast. My name is Wayne Halley. I'm here with Steve Ball. How's it going tonight, Steve? And I know the answer to this question.
It's going very well, Wayne. And no, I'm not a rub it in your face type guy. We got a gift tonight. You guys outplayed us. And but man, what an exciting game! That was truly fingernail biting all the way to the very end for me.
Yeah, if you're watching us live, of course, we are recording Saturday night. We're actually 2 days later than normal on our normal recording. Normally we record Thursday nights, but neither one of us could do it Thursday or Friday. So here we are Saturday night. We decided to jump on and record our podcast this week right after the Boston-New York Ranger game. So we are literally minutes away from the end of that game, so you're getting our raw reaction. And wow, I got to say, that was a great game. What a fun game to watch.
Oh man, I had a blast. My wife and I jumping up and down, and we came out on the winning side this time, but we're totally outplayed. Boston, they deserved to win the game, and it just didn't work out tonight. But it was really thrilling. Just some unbelievable plays there. And Tuukka Rask had a great game. Gosh, he played great.
Yeah, but Lundqvist played better.
Lundqvist played very well, too. He did.
Yeah, it seemed like the puck was in the Rangers zone all night long for most of the first period and most of the third period anyway. Second period was a little bit more evenly split. But the first and third, and, of course, overtime, it goes both ways. It goes either way. But Boston had that too many men on the ice penalty in overtime, which set up a Ranger power play, and that was all they needed. Zuccarello with that seeing eye wrist shot.
That thing was a laser.
It wasn't even hard. It was just I watched it a few times on the replay. It wasn't even a hard shot. He just saw a little tiny spot there, and he just put it there.
Yeah, he's extremely accurate, and he's always on the power play because he skates in and he goes so slow, and he's just – it's not that he lulls the goalie to sleep, but his eyes are just all over the place, and he finds that spot, and he can get the puck there, and it's just he has tremendous hand-to-eye coordination, and it didn't surprise me that puck went in.
Yeah, he picked a spot, and that was all she wrote. Right over Tuukka's shoulder. That hole over Tuukka's shoulder couldn't have been any bigger than a softball.
Oh, it was.
He fit that puck right in that small little hole right over his shoulder. So unfortunately, Boston comes out on the short end of that one. Although I think they definitely, I would agree with you, outplayed the Rangers in that one. In fact, I want to look up the shots on net for that game. It had to have gone Boston's way.
I think so. Yeah, wouldn't be surprised if it was maybe 10 shots more than we had. Easily. Third period alone, you probably had a 10-shot advantage.
Shots on goal, 35-28 for Boston.
Yeah.
A little closer than I thought because it seemed like the play was in the Ranger end, like I said, way more than the other way around.
Absolutely. Yeah, no question.
But at least Boston gets a point out of it anyway.
I like the NESN feed. Who's the main announcer you have?
Jack Edwards.
Jack Edwards said, you take all your other sports, take them. I'll take hockey every time. It was after, it was right in the end there. I think it was the shot. Was it Krug that rang it off the post with like 3 minutes to go? Or
Krejci's the one that rang it off the post.
Yeah. And he's like, you take all the other sports, I'll take boxing. I'll take hockey. It was really, really exciting, thrilling game. If you're a hockey fan, you had to love that one, man. That was a great game.
Yep. Yeah, it was a fun game. I'm still pissed that we lost, but
you got a point, and
yep.
But you deserve to win. I agree.
Yeah, overall, Boston's playing well right now, so that's the great takeaway on this. Yeah, they didn't get 2 points tonight, but Boston's playing well right now, but they're in the midst of a very, very busy schedule. They are in the midst of a 5 games and 7 night string. So.
Oh God, yeah, I didn't know. Yeah, we just got off the 4 and 6 nights, and so I think that was, if you take into account the it was earlier in the week. But yeah, it's been a difficult swing for us too, and I guess it's been 3 games and 4 nights for us. So
yeah, if you include the games going back to the 13th, the Bruins had a game on the 13th, 14th, and then of course tonight, and then they get tomorrow off, and then Monday and Tuesday they've got a game. So 5 games and 7 nights for Boston. So, and I guess that's what happens when Boston, going into that 5 game, 7 night string, Boston had played the fewest number of games in the league-wide so far this year. So, at some point they're going to have to catch up.
Right.
And that's essentially what is happening right now. So, and so Boston's got, in the first 3 of those 5 games anyway, that they've managed to eke out 3 points in those first 3 games. So, not great, but not too bad either. They've been playing well in the process. So.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, before we get going talking about our teams and the rest of their weeks, I wanted to just let everybody know what we're going to be talking about tonight. We're not just going to be talking Bruins Rangers, as our regular listeners know. We do talk all hockey teams, all hockey leagues, and we've got to talk about some big news concerning the future of the Hurricanes and the NHL expansion. I want to revisit that because we kind of touched on it. It was breaking right at the end of our recording last week, so we need to get on that a little bit further, a little bit more in depth. And of course, that's a little bit more than a week old, but we still want to touch on it a little bit more. And then, of course, the Board of Governors did meet last week as well. So we'll let you know what happened there. We've got a big TV network transaction that affects at least 12 NHL teams that I want to touch on. And then the Brothers Subban played against each other. I want to talk a little bit about that game. And then, of course, the outdoor hockey season begins this week. In fact, it's tonight, going on right now as we speak. Montreal is playing at Ottawa. They're playing an outdoor game, and at game time, it was 10 degrees above zero.
Yeah.
So
unbelievable.
one of the not the coldest outdoor game we've ever played. Remember that Montreal-Edmonton game? One of the first ones, it might have been the first one, at least in the modern era, the outdoor game. That was like about 10 below because it was played in January in Edmonton.
Yeah.
Which we'll probably never do again. But tonight's game's pretty cold. I'm seeing players with hoods and referees with hoods and gloves, although one of the two refs tonight is not wearing gloves. I got to give him props.
Yeah, that's pretty darn. Oh. I just watched the Grey Cup in Edmonton a couple of weeks ago, and it was snowing then.
Yeah,
this game's in Ottawa, but it's cold in Canada right now. Don't matter where you go.
Yep.
And so yeah, it's quite a setting though. They're right by the Parliament building. If I had my TV on in the office, which I don't, it's not operational right now, but I would be watching it too, Wayne.
Yeah. Well, I've got it on, but I'm not really watching. I'll probably watch the replay later on. And then, of course, we also got to talk about some college hockey. There was a lot of upsets over the past week. And we've got a bunch of injuries and other news and notes going around the league. So let's get going. First and foremost, as usual, we do talk about our teams. And let's get started with the Carolina Hurricanes since we started the show with the Bruins and Rangers game.
Right.
Carolina Hurricanes probably had the busiest of the three teams that we cover. Back on the 7th, they had a 5-4 overtime loss at San Jose, so they're on their West Coast trip still. A 3-2 overtime loss at LA 2 nights later on the 9th. 3-2 loss at Anaheim on the 11th. 3-2 shootout win at Vegas on the 12th, which is a huge win for them. Not many teams are winning in Vegas these days. Mm-hmm. And then they had a 5-4 overtime win at Buffalo on the 15th, which is actually last night. And then, of course, they're playing tonight against Columbus at home, their first home game in almost 3 weeks.
Yeah, that's quite a schedule.
So, yeah, the Hurricanes had a 6-game road trip in all. It was 6 straight games, 5 of them out in the Pacific time zone. So I'm a bit of a night owl, so I got to see most of those games because some of those nights I come home just in time for the game to start, coming home from work. So yeah, I got to see just about all those games. And Carolina right now is a frustrating team to watch just for me because some nights they play so well, and then other nights they just
you don't know what it is.
Yeah, you just don't know from one night to the next. You don't know what team you're going to get.
Right.
And some nights they do both in the same game. They've had leads. I think they had a 3-goal lead on San Jose, and they allowed San Jose back into the game. I think it was 4-1 in that at one point, if I remember right. Of course, that game was quite a while ago now. And then San Jose came all the way back, tied it, and won the game in overtime. They had a lead against Anaheim as well and ended up losing that. It's just, and then the Buffalo game the other night, or last night actually, they had a 4-2. Well, they went into the third period. They were either tied or down by 1 going into the third. They ended up going up 4-2 at one point in the third period. And then Jack Eichel scored 2 goals in 10 seconds to tie the game.
Yeah.
And then they ended up coming back and winning 5-4 in overtime. So, and that's a game, if you're going to be a playoff team, and they swear they think they are, that's a game you got to win against a team like Buffalo.
Yep.
They managed to get the 2 points, but man, it wasn't easy.
Right. And albeit you're gonna go through times where you might drop a game against a team like you will, but generally speaking, if you're playing Buffalo and Ottawa and Philadelphia has actually picked up their play a little bit, but who's down? Florida. You're playing those 3 teams, and you got 9 games against them. You're needing to come out on a winning side 6 or 7 times minimum.
Yep.
If you're a playoff team, you can't afford to give up wins against those teams.
Yep.
And so
they managed to do that. And then, of course, they're playing Columbus tonight. And as I look up, I just changed the game over to that one. It's 1-1 midway through the second period.
And that's in Raleigh.
That's in Raleigh. Yep. First time they've actually used that rink in a while. Ice looks nice and clean. It looks like they just put the ice back in. I don't know what was going on while they were on the road. A lot of times when you have a long road trip like that, it's
Right.
usually because your building's not available for whatever reason.
Right.
And I haven't been paying attention to what's going on at that building to find out what exactly was going on for 2 weeks at that building. But the ice looks pretty fresh. It looks like it hasn't been used much. So in my mind, it might be, I mean, I could be wrong, but it could have been an event that they had to remove the ice from the arena.
Right.
For something like the circus or whatnot. But anyway, I digress. All right, let's move on to the New York Rangers.
The New York Rangers. Well, Wayne, we have been playing very, I wouldn't say, maybe inconsistently is the right word, but we have not had the same spirit that we had when we won had the 6-game winning streak, lost, and then won 4 more. We've been playing well at home, but I would say if you looked at these games collectively, the Rangers just have not. They've played very deflated, in my opinion. We picked up wins in the last 2 nights, so I'm encouraged. But the game against Washington just outplayed us in Verizon Center, and there's nothing more to say about it. They played well. They had control of that game. It's one of those games where, we played against the better team, and that kind of started things as far as losing games we should have won. But Washington beat us on the road. You come back home, you have a game against New Jersey, and we played very well against them. Never looked back. Boy, you talk about that's the team that I do not like at all, the New Jersey Devils. So it was great to watch them win that game. And Brian Boyle did score, so I was happy about that too. But we played very well against them handily, won that game. Then stuff started happening. We played Dallas on I believe that was the 11th.
The 11th, yep.
And Dallas, the whole game, was in our zone, poor defensive coverage, sloppy play by the Rangers, inexcusable mistakes. Dallas could have won that game 5-1. We were very lucky to get a point in that game by scoring a goal late in that game to tie it and then take it into overtime. But Dallas handily beat us that night, and we just did not play well at all. The next game was on the 13th, 2 nights later in Ottawa, and we played, I thought, just dismally bad. Ottawa was able to go up and down the ice, no defensive pressure into their own zone. And you know how Ottawa is. If they get a goal early in the game or in the first period and they get ahead of you, they're going into that trap.
Yep.
That's exactly what they did. And so forget about scoring 5 or 6 goals on them. You're going to be hard-pressed to get 1 goal, much less more than that. The Rangers fought back to tie it up at 1. Then Ottawa scored and scored again early in the 3rd period. And when they went up 3-1, I looked at my wife. I was like, you might as well just throw in the towel. Scoring 2 goals with that trap in the 3rd period is going to be very hard to do. They scored 1, but just couldn't tie it. And we didn't play well. So, but these last 2 nights, the win last night against the Kings, which I missed that entire game at a Christmas party, but my understanding of that game is we played very well. They were packed house at Madison Square Garden, as it always is when we play the Kings. And Rick Nash scored late in the 3rd period to give us a 3-2 lead, and they had an empty netter. But it was a good game. But we outplayed the Kings, and then we played a night against Boston and get outplayed, but are able to come out of there with 2 points. So I'm looking at it as I'm hoping they got this junk out of their system and can turn around now and start playing better. We're fortunate to be in a playoff position right now. That's all I can say. So that's how the Rangers played.
Yeah, and I didn't see any of the Rangers game other than obviously the one today. But
yeah.
But I did notice that they have been kind of sputtering. That loss to Ottawa was very surprising to me. When I didn't see the game, I saw the score, and I'm like, wow, Ottawa beat them? Ottawa's not playing very well at all right now.
No. In fact, they were 1-10-2 coming into that game. They hadn't won in over a month.
Yeah.
And won.
Yeah.
So, not good.
No. So, all right. Well, let's move on to Boston. They've actually had a very good week up until tonight. Well, up until this week anyway. They had won going into, well, let's get the last games out of the way. They got a 6-1 win back against Arizona back on the 7th. That game was never really in question. They pretty much owned that game right from the go. Then they got a 3-1 win against the Islanders on the 9th. That was a very good game. That team scared me because at the time the Islanders were playing as well as any team in the league. And then the Bruins ended up getting a win against them. And then they got the 3-2 overtime win at Detroit on the 13th in a game that, thanks to the weather in Detroit, was very, very poorly attended. In fact, I've seen a lot of jokes where I saw one meme online where somebody posts, of course it's a Hurricanes fan, post a picture picture of the game with all the empty seats, around the game. They show the game going on and say, "Look at all the fans in Carolina." Oh wait, that's in Detroit. Okay, Detroit, it's time to move you to Quebec because your building is empty.
Man, I'm telling you.
But really, you can't blame anything on that particular game in Detroit because, from what I understand, they were getting quite a snowstorm outside that building that night. So,
yeah.
In fact, the announcers, when I was watching the game, they were worried that they weren't going to be able to get out of town after that game because they were playing in Washington the next night. This was on the 13th. And then they're in Washington on the 14th. So they were worried that they weren't going to get out of town because of the snow. But obviously they did, because the next night they went into Washington and lost 5-3 to Washington. I didn't see that game at all. Number one, I wasn't very interested in watching it because, after all, Washington has beaten the Bruins 10 times in a row going into that game. So now the streak is 11 against Washington. 11 losses in a row. I don't know what, Braden Holtby just owns Boston for whatever reason. Obviously, he's a good goaltender. You got to give him that. But
Washington is playing the best right now in the Metropolitan Division.
They are playing well right now, and Boston was too. Both teams were 8-2 in their last 10 going into that game, and Washington came out on top. And I saw the score updates because. The reason I didn't actually see that game, it's not that I purposefully avoided it. Me and the kids went and saw Star Wars that night. So.
Oh yeah, okay.
It opened up here at the local theater on Thursday night rather than Friday. So we went Thursday night, not because we wanted to see it opening night. It was because between me and my daughter, we both work a lot of nights. She's home from college and she's working while she's home. She's working pretty much 2 to 10 p.m. every shift that she works. And they've got her scheduled just about every day leading up to Christmas because she also works at a grocery store. So not the same one that I work at, but she still works at a grocery store. So they've got her closing shifts every night. So Thursday night was the only night that her and I were both off, because Thursday was the day I went to get her at college. That's why we couldn't do the podcast Thursday. So we got home a little earlier in the afternoon. We're like, hey, we're both off. Let's go.
Yeah.
And my son is free. He only works very, very few hours a week, so he was able to go just about any night we wanted to go. It was pretty much the schedule. So the three of us happened to be off, so we went and saw Star Wars. And I had my phone on silent vibrate, and I was getting the score updates, and it was 2-1 Washington, 3-1 Washington, 4-1 Washington. So I'm like, yeah, I see where this is going.
Yeah, yeah.
So from what I understand, though, Boston, from people who actually watched the game, Boston overall outplayed Washington, kind of like tonight's game. They carried the play. They just couldn't beat the goaltender.
Yeah.
Which is essentially what happened tonight, in a sense, with the Rangers. They were getting better scoring opportunities. I mean, Krug coming down the slot, shooting from the hash marks, for crying out loud, and he couldn't beat Lundqvist.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So when you have a shot like that and you're coming in on the goalie at practically full speed, you've got to bury that puck. You really do.
Yeah.
And anyway, so the loss to Washington, and then of course the overtime loss to the Rangers tonight. So that makes for kind of an up and down week after the real strong start. But overall, I think Boston's play is much better than it has been. And a lot of that is thanks to the fact that they're finally getting healthy again. I mean, you saw the team tonight, probably the best Boston team that's been put together so far this year.
Yeah.
So much so that Anders Bjork didn't even make the lineup tonight. He was up in the ninth floor tonight. So watching the game. Because the other players on the team are just playing better than him. Heinen's playing better. And of course, you're you're gonna play your $7 million guys when they're healthy. Guys like Marchand, Bergeron, Krejci, Backus, all those guys, they're gonna play no matter what. So
right.
And they were all in the lineup tonight. So anyway, so overall, I'm okay with the way the Bruins are playing right now. It'd be nice to get more wins, more points, but you can't win them all, of course.
That's right. That's right. They're playing well, though, Wayne.
Yep.
They're holding fast to a playoff spot, a non-wild card playoff spot. If I were you, I'd be pleased and get ready to go against. It's probably going to be right now. I doubt very seriously you're going to play Tampa Bay in the first round unless you drop.
Well, right. And let's take a look at that. Right now, it looks as though the way the standings are going, if nothing changes, of course, we got a long ways to go. There's still only going to be 3 teams out of the Atlantic making the playoffs, which means if the playoffs ended today, Boston would be playing Toronto in the first round.
Right.
Rematch of what, 2013? Yeah, 2013.
I think you stand a good chance of winning that series
Yeah.
because you're playing them first round, number one, before they get momentum and stuff going. And second of all, that is a team that is hot. They're playing well, but they're young.
Yep.
And they can make mistakes and fall on their face. And momentum really carries a big – you see how Toronto is. Sometimes they get the momentum and they can strangle you. We played in one of the games. In fact, the only time we played Toronto this year, they were literally that way. And then all of a sudden, they have a goal and an unlucky goal score against them, and we came back. We were down 5-0 and came back and tied them up 5-5. So they go through those swings of momentum where they just – and you can win a playoff series against a team like that until they learn how to stop that,
Yep. Yeah. So looking at the standings as of today, as of right now, obviously it's a Saturday. There's a lot of games going on as we speak right now. But as of right now, before these games got finished, of course, the Boston game is already in the standings. The Boston Rangers game anyway, and plus any other games that took place earlier today. But as of 8:30 anyway on Saturday night, this is our standings are. In the Metro, your top 3 are Columbus, New Jersey, Washington. The top 3 in the Atlantic are Tampa Bay, Toronto, Boston. Your wild card right now are the Rangers and the Islanders. And then the playoff teams, or the teams that are on the outside looking in: Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, Carolina, Montreal, Detroit, Florida, Ottawa, Buffalo. And like I said, the fourth place team in the Atlantic Division is now sitting 5 points out of a playoff spot. That's Montreal, with 3 teams above them that they have to pass just to get to that 9th spot.
Yeah.
So
yep. Good point.
So the Metro right now is carrying the East overall.
I think it'd be fair to say at this point, right this second, that best division in hockey.
Oh yeah. Because the last place team is Carolina in the Metro, and they're in 11th in out of 16 in the conference.
Yep.
And they're only 4 points out of a playoff spot. Dead last place, 4 points out of a playoff spot.
Yep.
And they're playing well. I mean, they're still having trouble scoring, which is why they're not winning as often as they should be, but overall they're playing well. They just can't bury the puck right now.
I'm still thinking they're making the playoffs, Wayne. I have not relinquished that. I still think they make the playoffs, but as a wild card team.
Yep. Well, they're winning. They're within shouting range of it anyway.
Yep.
So out west, your Central Division leaders are Nashville, St. Louis, Winnipeg. Your Pacific Division leaders are L.A., Vegas, San Jose. Wild card teams: Chicago and Minnesota, and on the outside looking in, Dallas, Calgary, Anaheim, Vancouver, Colorado, Edmonton, Arizona. And right now, probably, Edmonton is still sputtering.
Yeah.
We all expected them to play so well, but now they're 7 points back.
Yeah.
And
I'll tell you
and Chicago and Minnesota have a game in hand on them, so it's not like they've played fewer games.
Another 2-3 weeks go by. I don't think you're looking at Edmonton making the playoffs anymore. But I'll tell you who is very, very impressive with their play, and that's the Calgary Flames. And Johnny Gaudreau is just have you been watching him play recently? He is just playing tremendous. Johnny Gaudreau is a tremendously gifted guy with the puck. His stick handling, his passing ability, playmaking ability, might be unmatched in the West.
Yep.
And they are a fun team to watch.
They are a fun team to watch. They're a very talented team.
Excellent, and they got a great defense. It's not that they have the offensive ability. They have a very good defense.
Yep.
And I see them really making a push this year in that Western Conference.
Yep. It's a logjam there again. There's the Vancouver Canucks. Although they are falling in the standings, they're still only 3 points out of a playoff spot, and they're in that 12th spot in the conference. So there's only Colorado, Edmonton, and Arizona below them, and they're only 3 points out of a playoff spot. So, yeah, like we said, long ways to go before the end of the season.
That's right.
But here we are. We're approaching the Christmas break, and things are just as tight as ever. All right, let's move on to some of the stories we've seen coming around this week. As far as transactions are concerned, I don't know about you, but I didn't see any trades or any big transactions of any kind.
They're always going on, but I didn't see a trade, Wayne.
I know there's a blackout period right around Christmas, too, that they can't, and I'm not sure exactly when that starts. I know because the NHL takes a 3-day break. There's no games the 24th, 25th, or the 26th.
Right.
And I know there's a blackout period around that so that players don't get traded around Christmas, because that kind of uproots your whole family and everything. I mean, it makes a mess of your life if you're a player. So there is a blackout period. I don't think we're there yet, but I know that there is a blackout period. So it may just be, teams are still in a wait and see mode. There's really only, I would say, realistically, there's really only probably Florida, Ottawa, Buffalo, and Arizona are out at this point and probably should be making moves to get ready for next year.
Yep.
Although Florida and Ottawa still believe they're a playoff team, but
yeah, I'm not buying that. And even though they beat us the other night, they're not playoff caliber.
They're just really not playing consistently enough.
They're not. And Erik Karlsson is it on that team. He really is. That's it.
Well, there's a guy I follow on YouTube, and he's actually incredibly smart when it comes to hockey, which is why I watch a lot of his video. Very insightful. He goes by the name The Hockey Guy. He puts videos up every single day, and he's been talking a lot about the Ottawa Senators. And now this guy lives in Canada. He's from the Vancouver area, somewhere in that area. So he gets to see all the stuff we don't, all the coverage out of Canada. And he's been talking a lot about the Senators, and he believes that the owner there, Eugene Melnyk, is a big part of the problem with Ottawa. And why? Because apparently all the hockey decisions go through him. Kind of like the Jerry Jones, way Jerry Jones meddles with his team, with his Dallas Cowboys team. Melnyk is similar in that fashion where he wants to be involved in all the hockey decisions instead of just trusting his hockey brains to handle things. And now there's you've seen the stories. Have you seen the stories where Karlsson has said publicly that he's basically going to the highest bidder when he goes free agent? He's not a free agent till the end of next season, and he's already talking about.
I've seen that. And Wayne, don't count out New York. I think it's a far-fetched conclusion to think that he will go to New York unless
I
he
joked
wants
that
to.
last week. I said, "Yep, there we go. Karlsson's going to the Rangers."
Unless he wants to. And if he wants to, then they'll make it happen somehow. But they'll do that at the expense of some players because they're going to have to pay him a king's ransom.
Well, if Melnyk has decided, and it seems like this Ottawa team is, we've heard the term budget team associated with the Carolina Hurricanes because their own, when Jim Rutherford was the GM there, he used that phrase a lot. And that, I want to use that term with the Ottawa Senators because that's kind of what is coming out of Ottawa is tell me that Ottawa is becoming a budget team because they're not filling their building.
Right.
And they're having trouble getting the revenues that they need to get.
Right.
There's many factors involved in that. We won't get into why. That's a whole discussion. And if you want to hear that discussion, this hockey guy on YouTube is a good guy to follow because he puts up several videos a day, so he's talking very detailed about every little story that comes out. And he can give you all those details. But the Ottawa Senators, anyway, are becoming a budget team, which means at the end of this contract, if Karlsson wants in excess of $10 million a year, Senators aren't going to be able to afford that.
Right.
So I see the Senators sometime in the next probably 8 to 12 months trading
Erik
Karlsson rather than lose him for nothing. So I see him either being traded at this trade deadline or over the summer.
It makes sense. If Ottawa can't afford to pay him, they will. And they got to do it quickly. If he gets into next year, I don't think they trade. I don't think they're going to have trouble getting any. And boy, what buffoons they would look like.
Well, if
Erik Karlsson got away for nothing,
Yeah, if they're gonna trade him, they're gonna have to. The sooner they trade him, the more they're gonna get for him in return for Ottawa.
Right.
So, but if I were another team, unless I really, really, decided we've got to have Erik Karlsson, I'd wait on him. As longer you wait, the lower the price goes on him too. There's that side of it. So it'll be an interesting story to watch.
Absolutely.
So, but if that happens, though, Ottawa will officially be into a full rebuild at that point.
You think he stays in the East, Wayne?
If they trade him, probably not. I can't see why Ottawa would want to trade with anybody within the division and put Erik Karlsson on a team where they're going to be facing him 5 times a year.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of that's going to be held in Erik Karlsson's hands too.
Yeah.
So, that's an interesting one. I'm going to tell you, that's an interesting one.
Yep.
So,
all right. So let's move on to some of the other stories going on. I think the next on my list is injuries. And there were quite a few injuries to very big-name players. Not so much the quantity of injuries, but big-name players.
Right.
Starting with Tampa Bay forward Ryan Callahan is out indefinitely with an upper body injury. Will be reevaluated in 3 to 4 weeks. Callahan was injured during the third period of a 4-1 win against the Coyotes on Thursday. With 12:59 remaining, Callahan got tangled with Coyotes defenseman OEL, and when Callahan fell to the ice, Ekman Larsson also fell, landing on Callahan's arm. He has 6 points, 1 goal, 5 assists in 29 games this season. 32-year-old missed 64 games last year after having hip surgery during the offseason in February. Reevaluated in 3 to 4 weeks tells me a broken bone.
Yeah, very well could be. And I talked to a Tampa Bay fanatic this week who's all upset about it, and that's the first major injury and blah, blah, blah. But let's face it, Ryan Callahan is not the Ryan Callahan who played for the New York Rangers. He's just not.
No.
So for Tampa Bay to lose him, he is an alternate captain. I'm sure he brings a lot to that team, but he's not the same player. So it's not a I'm not a Tampa Bay fan at all, but it's not a big loss. I don't think it's a big loss.
Well, it's certainly not like losing, Stamkos or.
Yeah, they lost Victor Hedman. They'd be hurting right now.
Yeah.
So,
No, and Tampa Bay is good enough to be able to withstand that one for sure. All right, next one though, Devin Dubnyk, Minnesota Wild starting goaltender, is now
major loss there.
Week to week with a lower body injury. Dubnyk was injured in the first period of a 2-1 shootout win against the Calgary Flames on Tuesday. He's 12-8-2 with a 2.69 goals against average and .916 save percentage with 3 shutouts in 23 games this season. He started at least 65 games in each of the past 2 years with the Wild. So, major loss for them. He was a major part of the reason why they made the playoffs in recent years and
why they're doing well now.
Yeah,
I mean they're in a playoff position now. That is a major loss, and that's going to hurt them. It escapes me who their backup goalie is in Minnesota. I should know that, but that's a tough loss for them. Any way you want to look at it, and that is a major injury.
Stalock is their Alex Stalock is their backup goalie currently.
Okay,
so I'm not sure who they're bringing up. Although, not sure who they're bringing up. I haven't seen information yet on that. I'm sure it's happened. Minnesota fans, you can send us our feedback at thehockeynuts.com. Let us know who your third string goalie is. We just haven't had time this week to look up that information.
The Iowa Wild starting goalie
is
going to be there. That's what you can say with assurance.
Yep. But Stalock will be in the nets for sure, covering that situation. So, all right, the next one, left wing Taylor Hall, another very big loss.
Yep.
But he's only day to day with the Devils, with a contusion on his right knee and won't play against the Montreal Canadiens at Bell Center on Thursday. In fact, did not play. He was injured in the third period after scoring twice in a 5-1 win against the Kings at home on Tuesday when he went knee-to-knee with defenseman Curtis McDermott of at the Kings blue line at 7:16.
Right.
Hall's final shift ended at 14:35, and he left for the locker room during a stoppage at 16:56.
Right.
The contact by McDermott appeared to hit just above Hall's right knee.
Right.
So those hurt. I've had one of those.
Yeah, it looked very serious when it happened, but I heard the analysis on the NHL Network. They said that it is not as serious as it looked, and that Taylor Hall would be back with the team. Wouldn't be. It's a day-to-day injury. It's not a serious injury. And Taylor Hall is coming into his own now. That trade that they made with Edmonton from last year, where Hall came over for Adam Larson, is now turning into New Jersey's favor, I would say. And Taylor Hall is having a great year. In fact, Taylor Hall is the reason the Devils, one of the major reasons the Devils are playing so well. So
they've got some young players coming up through that have contributed too. But Taylor Hall is definitely a huge part of their turnaround.
Right. Agreed.
So, and going back to the Minnesota goalie situation, Steve McCulloch is the goalie that was called up.
Okay. to
back up Stalock. Yep.
Very good, Wayne. I would have never got that one.
Yeah, well, hey, I was looking it up while you were talking. So. All right, Columbus Blue. We're gonna roll back the curtain for everybody here, right? All right, Columbus Blue Jackets center Brandon Dubinsky will miss 6 to 8 weeks with an orbital bone fracture sustained against the Edmonton Oilers on Tuesday. Dubinsky was injured on a fight with Oilers forward Zach Kassian with 1:35 remaining in the 7-2 loss. Dubinsky, who's 31, has 12 points and is +5 in 31 games this season. Dubinsky has 420 points in 731 games over 12 seasons with the Rangers and Blue Jackets. Not a smart situation going against Zach Kassian.
Yeah,
that guy can throw him.
Yeah, he is a beast. And I'll tell you, Brandon Dubinsky has never backed down from anybody, though. He's a tough guy, man, and he'll get his butt kicked, and he'll get out there and do his best. I know he despises Sidney Crosby, I can tell you that, and from his days in New York and in Columbus.
Yeah.
So, he'll drop the gloves with just about anybody, whether they're the best player in the game or not. Oh. And but Zach Kassian, that's like picking a fight with Milan Lucic in a phone booth. You're not going to win. Yep. So
and in this case, Zach Kassian literally broke his face. So
Yeah.
So Dubinsky will have 6 to 8 weeks, and even when he does come back, he'll probably be wearing the full cage.
Yeah.
All right, Anaheim Ducks forward Corey Perry is week to week with a lower body injury, sustained a 3-2 win against the Carolina Hurricanes back last Monday. Coach Randy Carlyle said the Ducks will have a better timeline for Perry next week. Perry left the game against the Hurricanes at 13:14 of the first period after his knee struck Hurricanes forward Jeff Skinner's leg in a collision in the Carolina zone. Perry was face down on the ice before limping to the bench with the help of trainers. Perry's injury is the latest for Ducks, who are in 5th place in the Pacific Division, 10 points behind the Kings. Anaheim is also missing forwards Ryan Kessler, Patrick Eaves, Nick Ritchie, and Joseph Blandisi. Forward Jakub Silverberg played against Carolina after missing 5 games with an upper body injury. Perry leads the Ducks with 22 points. He led the NHL with 50 goals back in 2010-11 and has 739 points in 13 seasons with Anaheim. So, huge loss for the Ducks. And I saw that play happen. I was watching that game.
I was going to ask if you saw that.
Yeah, I saw it. And his knee went in a direction it shouldn't have gone.
Oh,
it looked like the ligaments on the inside of the knee. What are those? That's the MTL or MCL, I think, or something like that.
Immediate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I don't know. I'm not an orthopedist, but yeah, I know what you're talking about there.
But his knee or he collided with, and it was not intent. There was no intent whatsoever. It was just two players didn't see each other, collided with each other. But essentially what happened is Perry's knee stopped moving when he ran into Skinner, but his foot kept going. So,
oh God.
Yeah. So Doesn't look like a full blowout of a knee, but he's going to be. He couldn't put any weight on it, and it was, you could tell right away that was it. That was it for him in that game. So Anaheim's injury problems continue. They got Silverberg back, but Corey Perry in that same game goes out. So that's a big loss for Anaheim there. Big loss.
Yep.
And another equally big, if not worse, for a loss is defenseman Alex Pietrangelo was placed on injury reserve by the St. Louis Blues on Tuesday with a lower body injury. Pietrangelo, the Blues captain and best defenseman, was injured.
Norris Trophy, solid Norris Trophy candidate, wouldn't you say, Wayne?
For sure. For this season, yeah. He was injured blocking a shot in a 6-1 win against the Red Wings back on December 9th. He left the game and returned. Pietrangelo has 23 points and ranks 5th in scoring among NHL defensemen. He's tied for second in goals among defensemen with Mikhail Sergachev of the Tampa Bay Lightning. Pietrangelo has 326 points in 569 NHL games, all with St. Louis. Mm-hmm. So, although he's on injured reserve, it doesn't appear to be long-term because he was injured blocking a shot.
Right.
Unless he was hit in the face.
Right. With the puck. That's right.
Yeah, but this is a lower body injury, so it's probably just a really bad bruise at this point.
Right. I want to digress 1 second here.
Yeah.
In regards to the end of season awards.
Yeah.
And it was brought up on a hockey game I was watching with the Rangers since the last podcast. And the point was made that they were talking about Alex Pietrangelo as possibly the Norris Trophy candidate, Kevin Shattenkirk being. But they were saying, a guy like Ryan McDonagh will never win the Norris Trophy. And it's true. He never will. And the reason why he won't is because he's a stay-at-home defenseman that does not score very much. Mm-hmm. I would love to see them have a trophy for a defenseman like that who wins games for your team because of his play. Most definitely wins games for the team because of his play.
Yep.
But not by scoring.
Yep.
Because of his rugged defense. Maybe
kind of a best defensive defenseman award.
Right. The best defensive defenseman award. That's correct.
Yep.
A guy who doesn't have the assists and the goals.
Yep. Yeah, unfortunately, this day and age, though, a lot of those awards are tied to numbers, and it's hard to quantify that value.
Right.
It really is. If you wanted to take, I don't know, I know they track block shots nowadays and all this other all these other analytics, takeaways, and that kind of stuff, hits.
Right.
I guess if you wanted to include some of that, I don't know how you would quantify that, but
I can think of the number of times this season alone, and I'm picking Ryan McDonagh because I'm a Rangers fan and I'm biased, but I can think of the number of times where I've seen the other team get the puck and it's a breakaway. Mm-hmm. It's a one-on-one. He's going on a Lundqvist, and here comes Ryan McDonagh out of nowhere, stopping a goal, literally stopping a goal. Henrik Lundqvist never even had to make a save because of play like that. He's a very, very skilled skater, and he's excellent with his stick. I've seen him poke check a puck away from behind a player and knock it completely out of range of the goal. It never even had a chance against good skaters. And there's other players like that in the NHL, but I just wish they had an award like that, and I didn't want to waste a lot of time on it. Yep. With the podcast.
But and take the Bruins as an example. Of course, I'm biased towards the Bruins, but you could make a case that a guy like Zdeno Chara could be good for that award because he's not putting up the numbers he once did. He's focusing more on playing solid defense nowadays, and when he's not on the ice, that team struggles defensively.
Right.
He cures a lot of their defensive problems.
Absolutely.
He's got 9 points so far in 30 games, which is not a lot. That's not going to put him in the Norris talk for sure. Mm-hmm. But man, does Boston miss him when he's either in the penalty box, when they absolutely need to stop the other team from scoring. If Zdeno Chara is not on the ice, even at the age he is, it's a problem.
Right, and it's the same with New York. If Ryan McDonagh's out and it's an injury, we hurt.
Yep.
We're missing a major part of our team. And if he scores every 5 games, that's it. But he is such an important part of the team. And that's what I'm saying. Yep. And we can go down the list. Every
team's got one or two.
Got one of those guys, and you can look at them. and then you can pick from those teams which one is the best, or which are the two
and maybe that's how you do an award like that. Every team picks their best, votes for their own best defensive defenseman, and then those 31 guys go up against each other to see who ends up winning the overall league award. Right. But yeah, I would like to see an award like that too. So if anyone at the NHL office is listening, you're welcome.
Very good, Wayne. Very good.
All right, back to injuries. The last one I had for this week is forward Jaden Schwartz was placed on injury reserve by the St. Louis Blues on Sunday with an injury to his right ankle that will keep him out for at least 6 weeks. Schwartz was injured blocking a shot by defenseman Mike Green and was helped off the ice with 2:51 left in the first period of the Blues' 6-1 win at Detroit on Saturday. He's scheduled to be reevaluated in 6 weeks. So, Blues are playing very well. They're one of the best teams in the West, but they just lost 2 of their better players.
Absolutely. Yep. Jaden Schwartz, very, very needed on the St. Louis Blues. And I tell you what, they're a team that has a great cast, but how deep are they, Wayne? Would you say they're a deep team?
I guess we'll find out.
We're going to find, yeah. My answer would be no.
Yeah.
But if you put them up against the Nashville Predators, I think Nashville's a deeper team. But I guess we're going to find out, aren't we?
Yep.
We found out the Los Angeles Kings are a deep team.
Yeah.
For
sure.
They don't have Jeff Carter, and they might not have him back before the All-Star break.
But they're still rolling.
They're rolling.
Yep. We'll find out for sure. All right. Well, let's move on to suspensions and fines then. I only had one for the week. Ottawa Senators forward Alexander Burrows has been fined $5,000, the maximum allowable under the collective bargaining agreement, for roughing San Jose defenseman Dylan DeMelo during NHL game number 454 in San Jose on Saturday, December 19th. The NHL's Department of Player Safety announced the following day. The incident occurred at 14:51 of the third period. Burrows was assessed a major and a game misconduct for fighting. So I didn't see the play, but just from reading that, he probably went after DeMelo, and DeMelo didn't want to fight him. So, Burrows essentially got the major in a game.
Yeah.
For essentially trying to start a fight, but the other guy didn't want to do it. So I'm not sure what happened there.
I never saw it. Didn't see that play. No, it's the only suspension for the week. And
Burrows has had history of different things going back. I mean, you go all the way back to the 2011 Stanley Cup Final. He was involved in the biting the finger. Remember that?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, against Boston.
Yep.
That's right. I forgot about that one.
Yep.
Well, it's vague. I vaguely remember that.
Yep.
But that was
a
Alexander
big deal
Burrows
in that series. So anyway, so that was the only thing we had this week. Kind of a quiet week in that sense. Okay, now as far as other interesting stories we had going on around the league, I wanted to talk a little bit about the Carolina Hurricanes entering into a purchase agreement to get purchased or get their ownership changed. So that broke basically right in the middle of our show last time around, and essentially this news broke out of the Board of Governors meetings, and the story essentially says the Carolina Hurricanes entered into the purchase agreement for controlling interest in the team that strengthens its commitment to the Raleigh market. NHL Gary Bettman said Thursday Tom Dundon, a Dallas-based businessman, would become majority owner, and current owner Peter Karmanos would retain an equity stake. So Karmanos stays involved, but Dundon essentially controls the fate of the team at this point.
That's right.
Of course, the sale hasn't completely finalized yet, but I've heard a number of interviews with the different members of the press here in the local Raleigh area, including John Forsland, who does the play-by-play on the TV side, and Chuck Caton, who does the play-by-play on the radio side. And both those guys and essentially everybody as part of the press is very excited that this is finally coming. Probably more just that it's finally ending all of the uncertainty and the speculation and everything else, because with the Hurricanes being up for sale, there's a lot of speculation that they might be on the move, and Gary Bettman came out and said essentially there's no way the Hurricanes are moving. In fact, I think this agreement does have a guarantee that they stay for at least 7 years.
Right.
And in 7 years, the team can look very different than it does now. It's an up-and-coming team, a lot of young, hot prospects on the team. And, in 7 years, this team could be a Stanley Cup contender if they make the right decisions on the hockey side of things. So, and the fact that the ownership change is finally happening, there's a lot of fans that have been staying away from the arena just simply due to the fact that they don't want to give their money to a team that may end up leaving town in the very near future. So with them promising that they're going to stay, you're probably going to see some of those fans come back.
Right. I'll tell you this.
Especially as the team gets better.
This talk of Houston Rockets owner Tillman Fertitta buying a team for Houston, you know what, Wayne? I don't think two teams make it in Texas. I just don't. I don't think Houston is nearly as committed to hockey. And when Walter Bush moved the Minnesota North Stars, he burned a bridge. Let me tell you, because he didn't wait for expansion to come along, and for Dallas, who probably would have got a team in the expansion wars that followed. He took the team out of Minnesota, and I'm telling you, that really pissed off a lot of people. And I remember that that time. So I don't see Texas getting another team. And if they move a team like Carolina to Houston 7 years from now, it's going to do the same damn thing. You're going to have a lot of people furious, and a greedy owner who doesn't want to. And I'm not saying he is. I don't know anything about him. But I still got I don't know how to say it. I still got a burr under my saddle.
Yeah.
about watching the Minnesota North Stars go to Dallas.
Well, how do you basically feel that same way? Any Hartford Whalers fans? I know we have a few listening to our podcast that have written in.
Yep.
We've had a few that would love to see the Hurricanes end up going back to Hartford. That's not ever going to happen because the arena that's there in Hartford is not up to NHL standards, modern day standards anyway. So if Hartford were to get a team back, it would, they're going to need a new arena first because the NHL is not going to go back in the Hartford Civic Center or whatever the name of that building is now. I know it's got a new name now, but because the Hartford Wolfpack play there now, so.
Right.
It's an AHL arena, but it's not an NHL arena anymore.
Right.
So, yeah. So it looks like Carolina is staying put for at least the foreseeable future anyway.
Right.
And, the word has also gotten out with all of this talk of this team that the Hurricanes are actually making money. Even though the building is not filling and not selling out, they turned a profit last year.
Right.
So that's all any owner could want is to turn a profit.
Right.
It may not be a big profit. I don't know what the exact numbers are, but everyone in the know is saying that the Carolina Hurricanes are now, they weren't always a profitable team because they were giving away a lot of tickets or deeply discounting a lot of tickets just to keep the seats full. But when you do that, that means you still got to have more people in the arena to support the bigger crowds.
Right.
So it costs more money. If you're giving away the tickets, you still got to pay the people that are working at the arena and around the arena. You got the parking attendants, you got the concessions people, you got there's a whole big group of staff that you have to put on an event like that.
Right.
And the Hurricanes put a stop to that when Mr. Waddell took over the business side of the team. He put a stop to all the free tickets and all the giveaways and that stuff. And now, obviously they're not filling the seats or filling the building anymore, but at least the people that are coming to the games are paying for the tickets that they have.
Right.
One way or another, whether they personally are paying for them or they may be corporate seats. Somebody's paying for the tickets that are going there. They're not giving away nearly as many as they used to.
Right.
And I read one article that basically they're down to the point where the only tickets that are being given away at this point are the tickets that they give to the players and the staff to give to their friends and family.
Right.
Those are the only seats that are essentially being given away nowadays.
Right.
So, all right, well, let's go on to the next story. Another team news that broke right at the end of our last podcast. So for those of you who don't listen to us all the way to the end of our show, we did talk at the very tail end of last show that Seattle is now looking to have a team, and the NHL has granted permission for them to start the process, which essentially means first step in the process is to do an early season ticket drive to gauge fan interest.
Right.
And Seattle is not a traditional hockey or not a traditional NHL market, but it is a hockey market because they've had the Seattle Thunderbirds of the Western Hockey League there for years and years and years.
Yep.
And the proximity to Vancouver would make a nice rivalry there. Man, would be nice rivalry seeing Seattle playing Vancouver.
Right.
In the NHL.
Now, how do you shake up the league to accommodate another Western team like Vegas?
Someone's going to have to move to the Central Division, the way I see it. And probably, you know what wouldn't surprise me at all is if Arizona ends up in Houston and Seattle has a team. That would line up perfectly for the NHL.
Right.
Either way, Arizona might be the odd team out in the Pacific.
What about Arizona winding up back in Quebec?
I don't see Quebec getting a team. I really don't. The whole Quebec getting a team thing, I think, is just made up from their press. The press in Quebec City area is because it's a Canadian market, obviously. They're really, really pushing hard to get a team. There's an arena there, yes. But Gary Bettman said when he is on record as saying that he told that the officials in Quebec, go ahead, build your arena, but we're still not going to guarantee you're getting a team. The NHL views Quebec as a shaky market. They really do. It's not the biggest market. It would still be probably this. I don't know if Ottawa is smaller than Quebec or not, but
right.
It would still be the smallest market in Canada.
Right.
And by far the smallest market comparing it to the US markets. I just don't see I think the NHL is trying to avoid Quebec. They're not coming right out and saying it, but I'm reading between the lines saying, look, they don't want a team in Quebec. They don't think Quebec is an NHL city.
The reason I say that is because that puts Detroit back in the Central, and that's the only reason I say that.
The way I see it shaking out is obviously Seattle is going to be in the Pacific Division.
Yep.
Which means one of the Pacific teams has to kick out to the Central because the Central is the division right now with short one team to make it an even 32. So who do you take? You obviously can't split up L.A., San Jose, and Anaheim. And you don't want to have Seattle, Vancouver be in two different divisions as close as those two cities are. And they're all right on the West Coast. You don't want to split up Edmonton, Calgary.
Vegas just started.
Vegas is close to LA relatively. So you're already seeing a Vegas-LA rivalry starting to form. So you don't want to pull them out. So that essentially leaves Arizona as kind of the odd man out in this situation. So either Arizona is going to have to move to the Central because they're not in the Pacific time zone. They're the only team of that group that's not in the Pacific time zone. Although, is Edmonton, Calgary in the Pacific or are they Mountain?
Don't know that one. I thought Arizona was West Coast time, but I don't
they
know.
have their own time zone. They don't participate in daylight savings time.
Okay.
So part of the year they are 3 hours behind the East Coast, but another part of the year they're only 2 hours behind because Arizona has their own time zone. They don't participate in daylight savings time, so they're kind of in their own time zone. So part of the year they're in the Mountain, part of the year they're in the Pacific. So I would think that Arizona, if they stay put, would even one way or another that team's going in the Central Division once Seattle starts, and then if that team essentially ends up moving because they can't solve their arena issue, then I see Houston as the natural grab right there. It's not moving the team that far.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be moving Arizona that far.
I don't look at Houston as a hockey market for the NHL.
No, but the NHL sees the size of the Houston market and sees the dollar signs there. I don't see it as a hockey market either. I agree with you. I don't think two teams in Texas are going to make it, but
yeah.
But the NHL is looking at the money side of things, and Houston is a huge TV market, one of the biggest in the U.S., and I think they want a piece of that pie. So I don't know. We'll see.
Well, time will tell.
I'm sure the NHL prefers that Arizona stays put, solves their issues, and moves on with it. That's ultimately what they want. But somebody's got to move to the Central once Seattle gets their team.
Yeah.
I think the logical choice would be Arizona in order to keep all the existing little pockets of teams intact. Like you said, you don't want to split Edmonton, Calgary. You don't want to split San Jose, LA. That southwest corner, that Vegas, LA, Anaheim, Anaheim, San Jose, LA, San Jose. All those teams that have formed a nice rivalry with each other. You don't want to split all that up. Yep. And Arizona, because they've been so bad, is really not formed a rivalry with anybody per se. They do have rivalries with the California teams. but it's not the same. It's not as intense as it is with, the LA, San Jose, Anaheim. And now Vegas coming in is already getting lumped in with those other 3 California teams. So you don't want to break up that group. Yeah. So I just don't know. The only other thing is you send Edmonton, Calgary to the Central, both of them. They'd have to both go, so they stay together. So then another Central team gets kicked out west.
Which would be Colorado.
Probably, yeah.
That actually might work, too.
Yeah, so I guess we'll wait and see what happens.
Yeah.
All right, and the other story I saw that came out of the Board of Governors meeting, they talked about salary cap. NHL revenues are on the rise, and so is the salary cap for next season, NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman said last Friday. Commissioner Bettman, speaking at the conclusion of the 2-day Board of Governors meeting, said the league is projecting hockey-related revenues to grow 8.2% to $4.54 billion this season, and the salary cap to rise to between $78 and $82 million for the 18-19 season. The salary cap is currently $75 million, which is $2 million higher than last year and $3.5 or $3.6 million higher than the year before. He said the league has never been healthier, the game has never been healthier, our franchises have never been healthier. Our fan base has never been better, and our fans are the best in all sports. I would agree with that.
Yep.
Agree. The growth of the salary cap will be dependent on the 5% growth factor option that can be triggered by the Players Association, and that's a decision that won't likely happen until June. If the NHLPA doesn't trigger any growth factor, the cap is projected to rise to $78 million. 2.5% inflator leads to a projected cap of $80 million. And a 5% inflator results in a projected cap of $82 million. The growth factor can be anywhere from 0 to 5%. For 27-18, the growth factor of 1.6% raised the salary cap from $73 to $75 million. An $82 million cap would be the largest season-to-season rise in the salary cap since it was instituted for the 05-06 season. The cap rose $6.4 million from 2007-08 to the 08-09 season, which brought it from $50.3 to $56.7 million. So some teams will get a chance to sign some players if the cap goes up.
Like Erik Karlsson.
They're going to. Yeah. That's going to take a big increase. I don't think the cap will grow that much.
That's right.
All right. So, yeah, that'll be a story we'll have to follow, obviously, probably at the end of the season. All right. There was a big, huge business side of things happen. Disney and Fox made a deal this week to acquire a massive package of 21st Century Fox's assets. And we'll talk about the sports side of things because there was all the sports regional networks were lumped in as part of this deal. So essentially what is happening at this point, or at least what everybody's projecting to happen, is you have all these sports packages or sports networks, these local sports networks, this Fox Sports, whatever, Fox Sports South, Fox Sports Southwest, Fox Sports, so on and so on. Well, there's 12 NHL teams that have their games aired on these networks. The Coyotes, Hurricanes, Red Wings, Panthers, Blues, Wild, Blue Jackets, Predators, Stars, Lightning, Kings, and Ducks all have their games aired on one of these Fox networks that has been now acquired by Disney, who also owns ESPN. Mm-hmm. So the obvious thing here is you're going to see those regional networks as it'll now be ESPN Southeast, ESPN Southwest, so on and so on.
Right.
So ESPN's going to be developing, at least, all the speculation is that anyway, will be developing their own set of regional networks. So in a lot of uncertainty what may happen here. ESPN has not really done a whole lot to pursue hockey since they lost the hockey contract back in the day. I don't know how many seasons it's been, but it's been quite a while since you've seen a hockey game on ESPN.
Mm-hmm.
So,
true.
I don't know. What's your take on this whole deal?
I like the way Fox does things, but I see what's being said, and I guess it remains to be seen. That would mean that Fox would be completely out of the hockey picture.
As far as the Fox networks, because they're selling all their sports. Now Fox is retaining their television side of things as far as the broadcast network Fox and Fox News and the major products that's under the Fox name still retain as part of Fox. They're just getting rid of all the smaller stuff.
Yeah.
Which all these Fox regional networks are part of this deal. So. Yeah, there's 12 NHL teams, 15 Major League Baseball teams, and 17 NBA teams that have their games televised on one of these regional networks. So, I don't know. I guess we'll follow this story a little bit more and see what comes of it. But you're probably going to start seeing ESPN branding if you're one of the teams that I just named and you're watching their games. And I know our Carolina Hurricanes is one of them. The Fox Sports Carolinas does all the Hurricanes games. You're probably going to see ESPN Carolinas on that. Which I'm sure ESPN's going to be happy with, but I'm wondering if they're going to keep these contracts going, because if ESPN owns the Carolinas network, I would be willing to bet that for the Raleigh market anyway, they would rather televise, Duke basketball, NC State basketball, UNC basketball games rather than hockey.
Right, I agree.
At least in this market.
I agree.
And I know they do televise a lot of every time Duke and Carolina plays, they're televising that game on ESPN. The primary
college football and basketball are huge on ESPN. That's their, it's a big part of their focus.
That could have some local implications for us in the future. And if they don't do the Hurricanes games, who would? There's no other competitor in this area.
Right.
I guess we'll just have to start our own TV network.
Yeah, it's true. Because MSG is not going to come down here.
No, neither is NESN.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of New York area, the Yes Network is actually part of that deal.
Oh, okay.
I guess they were owned by Fox. So, all right, and everybody in New York knows what the Yes Network is. So, it's basically all Yankees all the time channel.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
All right. Now I've got a couple lighthearted stories that have come out over the past week. Did you see the Canucks fan who won a car?
I didn't see that, but I'm interested to hear about it.
Well, the NHL posted on NHL.com a video of this Canucks fan winning a car. He had 3 shots. It's the typical board in front of the net with the hole in the middle of the net or in the board that's only slightly bigger than the puck itself. And he had 3 shots. First shot he hit. It's obvious when I saw the video. It's obvious this guy's a beer leaguer. At the very least, he's played hockey before. This is not a. A lot of times they bring these guys out there. People who've never held a hockey stick, and you show them trying to shoot, and they got no clue what they're doing. It's obvious they've never held a stick in their hands before in their life. So, well, in this case, this guy was obvious that he's played before because he hit the board to the left of the thing on the first shot. Then hit the board to the right of the thing on the second shot. And then the third shot, he just kind of threw it at the net. He's like, whatever. And it went right straight through the hole. No, no bouncing, nothing. Shot it right in. And the funniest part about the video is the MC at the arena. The girl who's holding the mic and, talking to the fans. She is so shocked that he actually did it. She couldn't contain herself. It's a pretty neat video, but if you click on the link in the show notes, that'll take you to the news article and where you can show the video of him winning a Honda. What is it? It's a small little car. It's not anything. I don't have it right up. Can't remember what kind of car it is. It's a Toyota something. I see the Toyota logo on the car, but it's just a little commuter car, 2-seater. Nothing real big. Obviously not a real big truck or anything. But yeah, he won the car.
That is great. That is great.
All right. And the next story I've got is about the Subbans.
Yeah.
And I was ticked off at this game. I got home and watched the third period of this game after work. And obviously the headline is Malcolm Subban, goaltender of the the Vegas Golden Knights, plays PK Subban, defenseman of the Nashville Predators. First time that these two players have ever, they're 5 years apart, so they never played each other with or against each other in youth hockey because they were never in the same age group. Well, they finally end up on the same ice as opposing players against each other. Of course, we always thought it was going to happen in a Boston versus Montreal game. And if I remember right, I believe it did happen in a preseason game, or it was supposed to, and for whatever reason didn't.
Right.
But anyway, the two players move on to their new teams, and now Malcolm plays PK in a game, and that game ended up in a shootout. Of course, PK had a few shots on Malcolm during the game, and Malcolm stopped everything. PK didn't score in the regular part of the game. But then the game ended up in a shootout. And the whole time during the shootout, I'm watching Nashville put out player after player after player, and no PK, no PK, no PK. I'm like, what are they doing?
Yeah.
Give us PK against Malcolm in a shootout. Come on.
Yeah.
They never did it. So after the game, I tweeted out that the Nashville coaching staff got exactly what they deserved tonight, a shootout loss, for not treating the fans to a Subban versus Subban shootout.
Yeah.
I was so mad at the end of that game that they didn't put PK out there.
Obviously, PK does not have the confidence of the Nashville coaching staff in the shootout. You'd have to say that.
Probably. Probably.
Well, you don't see defensemen very often anyways. I mean,
because it went long, too. It was like a 6, 7, 8 round shootout. It was not a quick 3-round shootout. It went several rounds. So they had the opportunity to put PK out there, and they didn't. So I plead to all NHL coaches, I'm sure none of them listen to us, but in a situation like this, where you've got an obvious situation, brother versus brother, you've got to treat the fans. The fans are paying to watch your product. You've got to treat them with something like this. Give them a little something. It's probably not the best decision to get you 2 points.
Yeah.
But what's it going to hurt to throw PK out there in the 6th round of a shootout? It's not, you never know what he's going to do.
Absolutely.
And as athletic as PK is, he's definitely athletic, creative player. You never know what he's going to do next. He does some weird things on the ice. And Malcolm, as athletic as he is as a goaltender, one of the more athletic goaltenders around the league. Give us that nugget. Give us something, Give us that PK versus Malcolm. I wanted to see that so bad, and I was so disappointed when it didn't happen. And I was thrilled that Vegas got the 2 points that night. I'm like, damn it. Nashville got what they deserve. So that's all I really wanted to say about that one. But it was an interesting night for sure.
Yeah.
And then the last one I had was the St. Louis Blues ended up suiting up one of their season ticket holders as the backup goalie one night.
Yeah.
Name's
they
Tyler
picked him
Stewart.
out of the stands.
Yeah, his name is Tyler Stewart. Well, not exactly. He's a 25-year-old former player for the St. Louis University's club team. He got the call to sign an amateur tryout agreement when backup Carter Hutton sustained lower body injury and was a late scratch. The Blues recalled Ville Husso from San Antonio of the American Hockey League, but he wasn't going to be there in time for the start of the game against the Dallas Stars. He did, in fact, arrive during the game, so because of the fact Stewart had to dress as the emergency backup, Husso, when he arrived at the arena, basically took his place later on. But he got to go out there during warm-ups. He got to sit on the bench. I think he started the game on the bench. Yeah. But, it was
really
another one of those interesting story. But, his tenure as a Blues sweater didn't last long. Husso arrived on the bench in full gear with less than 5 minutes to play in the first period of what become a 3-0 win for the Blues. And then, so season ticket holder gets to it's like the old coach pointing up in the stands. Okay, we need you to be our backup goalie tonight.
Come on.
But apparently
and give it to him.
And apparently, from what I read, too, that he has participated in practices when they've needed a goalie, too. So it's not like he was a complete unknown.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's move on to some honors and milestones this week. There are quite a few this week.
Quite a few.
Marian Gaborik became the 314th player in NHL history to play 1,000 games when the Kings played the New York Rangers at Madison Square Garden on Friday. So congratulations to him. I never thought he'd make it to 1,000 with all the injuries he's had.
Yeah, he is an injury-prone player. He was when he played in New York, but he still has that magic. He still can score.
And when he does play, he's big help to their team.
Yep, truly.
All right, and some goalie stuff over the past week. Henrik Lundqvist made 27 saves in New York Rangers' 3-2 loss to the Ottawa Senators on Wednesday, bringing his career total to 20,023 saves. He became the 15th goalie in NHL history to make the 20,000 save plateau since data was officially kept, which began back in the 55-56 season. Lundqvist joined Martin Brodeur, Roberto Luongo, Patrick Waugh, Tony Esposito, Glenn Hall, Curtis Joseph, Ed Belfour, John Van Beesbrook, Gump Worsley, Grant Fuhr, Gilles Meloche, Sean Burke, Jacques Plante, and Nikolai Habibulin as the only goalies with at least 20,000 saves. Among them, they have won the Vezina trophies 27 times, and 7 of the 12 eligible players are in the Hockey Hall of Fame. In terms of goals against average, his 2.33 ranks second to Brodeur and takes 5 decimal places to break the tie for first and save percentage, with Jacques Plante holds over Lundqvist, 919.65 to 919.58. This does not include Plante's play from 52 to 55 when they weren't keeping track of those stats. So congrats to Lundqvist for reaching that 20,000 save plateau.
Yeah.
And that's a good group of names that he's
watching the game.
there.
Absolutely. He's he's now two. And there's another minor milestone, but it counts all the same. He during the same, I don't know if it was the same game. I don't believe it was. But within the last week, he won his 419th game. He now has 421 wins, so it was two wins ago. And that passed Tony Esposito. I always thought when I was a kid, Tony Esposito only played for the Chicago Blackhawks. He didn't play for anybody else. And that's actually not true. His first year, he won 5 games, and he was playing for the Montreal Canadiens.
Yep.
And then was traded to Chicago.
Yep.
So he did play for 2 teams. Henrik Lundqvist has only played for 1 team his entire career. So when he won his 419th game, he surpassed Tony Esposito as the second winningest goalie all time with 1 team. So that's pretty good there too.
That's a big
Yep.
So congrats to him. A couple other goalies milestones this week. Had a pair of 300-game winners this week. Kari Lehtinen made 32 saves for his 300th NHL win against the Islanders at Barclays Center on Wednesday. And also Wednesday, Cam Ward made 22 saves for his 300th NHL win when the Carolina Hurricanes defeated the Vegas Golden Knights 3-2 in a shootout at T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas on Wednesday. And just a note on that one, Phil DiGiuseppe got the winner in the shootout in that game. We saw him play the night we went to Charlotte.
We did. Absolutely. Phil DiGiuseppe is playing very well for the Hurricanes, and I saw him give the puck to Cam Ward. So that'll go on Cam Ward's wall of fame.
300 wins.
Cam Ward for winning 300 games. He has been at it a long time to get from 200. And he's done it. He's made that 300-game win plateau, and that's a rare thing. You don't have a lot of goalies who've done that.
Not a lot of goalies. And, of course, I saw the overall record. I think he has like 319 or 320 losses, though. So he reached 300 losses before he had 300 wins. But Cam Ward, quite frankly, to be fair, has played for some pretty weak Carolina Hurricane teams over the years. Ever since 2011. From then until now, the Hurricanes have been a pretty weak team, and he's had a hard time racking up wins during those years. But prior to that, he was racking them up pretty good there. And to see him get to that 300 level is a good thing because he's had a rough go of it.
Yeah.
He at times he's been the only goalie that Carolina could really trust in the net. He's had a couple seasons where he played over 70 games,
right?
Because they didn't really have any other options. So kudos to him for getting to that level, and again, all with 1 team,
right?
In his case, and if he'd have been playing for a better team, he probably would have been getting more wins or getting to that level faster. So, and then the other milestone that I saw this week was actually not a milestone, a retirement this week. Forward Chris Neal, who turned a relentless work ethic into a 15-year career with the Ottawa Senators, retired on Thursday. Neal, who's 38, played 1,026 NHL games, all with the Senators. Only defenseman Chris Phillips and former captain Daniel Alfredson played more. He had 250 points and is the Senators' all-time penalty minutes leader with 2,522, 20th in NHL history. Neal and longtime New Jersey Devils defenseman Ken Danico are the only NHL players to have played 1,000 games and have more than 2,500 penalty minutes while spending their entire career with one franchise. So for a lot of years, I hated Chris Neal because, with Ottawa being in Boston's division all these years, he made the Bruins' life hell.
Yeah.
So, all right. So the next story I have in this particular category, St. Louis is the 3 stars of the week. St. Louis Blues center Braden Shen, St. Louis Blues goaltender Jake Allen, and Philadelphia Flyers goaltender Brian Elliott have been named the NHL's 3 stars for the week ending December 10th. Shen led the NHL with 7 points, including at least 1 goal in all 4 of his appearances to power the Blues to a perfect week at top of the Western Conference standings. Allen went 4-0-0 with a 1.5 goals against average, .944 save percentage, and one shutout to guide the Blues to their third 4-game winning streak of the season. Elliott posted a trio of victories along with a 1.67 goals against average and .954 save percentage to help the Flyers to bounce back from a 10-game skid and complete a perfect road trip through Western Canada. And then finally, this
as of late.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The Flyers are rising in the standings.
Yep. And finally this week, defenseman Zarli Zalapsky, who played 12 seasons in the NHL with the Pittsburgh Penguins, Hartford Whalers, Calgary Flames, Montreal Canadiens, and Philadelphia Flyers, has died at the age of 49. The Flames announced this past Tuesday. The cause of death was not disclosed. Zalapsky, born in Edmonton, was selected by the Penguins with the number 4 pick in the 86 NHL draft. He played 190 games over 4 seasons with Pittsburgh before being part of a trade with the Whalers that sparked the Penguins' back-to-back Stanley Cup titles. On March 4th, 1991, Zalapsky and forwards John Cullen and Jeff Parker were traded by the Penguins to the Whalers for forward Ron Francis and defenseman Ulf Samuelsson and Grant Jennings. The Penguins won the Cup that season and the next. Zalapsky played 229 games with the Whalers, 178 with the Flames, 28 with the Canadiens, and 12 with the Flyers before retiring after the 1999-2000 season. Zalapsky finished his NHL career with 384 points in 637 games. Okay, so though they didn't announce, the cause of death, I did read that they're speculating. I think it was had something to do with concussion-related issues.
Wow. Okay.
Mental illness due to concussion, I think is kind of the speculation that I had read.
Wow.
So another sad story.
Yes,
if that is the case.
Yeah, that's tough.
So, all right, let's move on to our weekly power rankings, and I believe it is my turn this week, right?
It is your turn. Yes, sir.
Okay. Let's go. I guess we're going to go from 16 down to 1. And at number 16 this week, I have put in the Boston Bruins.
Deservedly so. They should be higher than that, but that's good.
At number 15, Minnesota. At number 14, the Islanders, who are sliding down the charts here of late. Number 13, Chicago, who should be higher, but they're not playing like it. Number 12, I've got the Rangers. They would be higher, but the recent losses have kind of slid them down a little bit. Mm-hmm. Number 11, I think the loss to Ottawa probably knocked them down a couple spots. Number 11 is San Jose. Number 10 is New Jersey, who's starting to slide. Number 9, I've got Toronto. As good as a team as they are, I still don't have them any higher than 9.
Yeah.
Because the teams above them are just simply playing better. And I think Auston Matthews being hurt is a big factor in Toronto's not being as strong as they were earlier in the season. Number 8 is Winnipeg. Number 7 is Columbus. Number 6 is Washington. Number 5 is Vegas. Number 4 is LA. Number 3 is St. Louis. Number 2 this week, I've got Nashville. And number 1 again this week, Tampa Bay.
Yeah, can't argue or dispute any of those.
And a local note, I've got Carolina at 22, although they may start to rise. They just finished knocking off Columbus tonight.
Wow, that's a big win.
2-1.
In Columbus, too. No, it was in Raleigh. That's right.
It was in Raleigh, but Darling got the game, so that's encouraging because Darling's been struggling.
Yeah.
They had him in there, and he got the win. 2-1, too, so he didn't give
up
any bad goals. All right, let's look ahead to the next week. The Boston Bruins have games against Columbus on the 18th, and that's a home game. At Buffalo on the 19th, at home against Winnipeg on the 21st, at home against Detroit on the 23rd, and after the Christmas break, they've got Ottawa on the 27th at home. So Bruins only have one road game over the next week or so. Carolina has Toronto on the 19th, and that's in Toronto. Nashville in Nashville on the 21st. Buffalo at home on the 23rd, and Montreal after the break at home on the 27th. I'd like to go to that game. I wonder if I have that night off. That'd be a fun game to go to.
Yeah, that would be a fun game to go to. I agree. See the Montreal Canadiens, see Carey Price.
Yep, I might try to go to that game. Could probably get cheap tickets. And then I can wave it in the face of the Montreal fans. Look what I paid. Look what I paid $12 for these nosebleed seats for a Montreal Canadiens game. They can't go to their own building for less than a C note. No matter who they're playing. And no matter where they sit. Isn't supply and demand a great thing, huh? There'll probably be a lot of Montreal fans. Last time I went to see Montreal, quick side story on that. Last time I went to see Montreal play here in Raleigh, and this was quite a few years ago. I don't even think Carey Price was a starter at this point. This was probably 6-7 years ago. When we first moved down here, probably 2009, 2010, somewhere around there when we went to see Montreal. I talked to a couple of Montreal fans that were in line behind us waiting to get into the building, and they were actually from Montreal, and they told us that it was cheaper for them to buy the plane tickets, fly down, 2 nights hotel, and a round of golf thrown in because it was like February, and it was nice here and still cold as hell up there. So they were able to get all of that for less than what it would have cost them for lower bowl seats in Montreal.
And I believe it. I believe that. I tell you what, it's just as bad in Toronto too, from what I heard.
Yeah, It's bad in Toronto as well. So, yeah. So any Montreal fans, there'll be quite a few Montreal fans in the building that night, I'm sure. Some that will fly down from Montreal. Because, they can come down here and play a round of golf while they're down here before they head back up into the snow country. All right, what do the Rangers have coming up this week?
We only have 3 games before the break, Wayne. We play Anaheim Tuesday night. We got a much-needed 2-day break. Then we play Anaheim on Tuesday. We go across the river and play the Devils on Thursday, and then back home to play the Toronto Maple Leafs next. Let's see, that's the 23rd, which would be, that is with Christmas being on a Monday. That is on Saturday night.
Yep. And
if you want to talk about in those 3 games, I really want to see them whoop up on Toronto. I really do, but I think those are 3 tough games. Anyway, you want to slice the pie.
And then coming out of the break, they've got Washington.
Coming out of the break, they got Washington. That's going to be an incredibly tough game. But the good thing about that is it's in the Garden, where they're playing very well. So, I'm hopeful that we can pull off 2 wins in those games. 3 would be great. I guess that's all I'll say about that. They need to bring it.
Yep. So coming up, like you said, we've got the Christmas holiday break. So we've got games every day leading up to the break, and a very busy Saturday night on the 23rd. Then the NHL takes 3 days off, which I think is great. It sucks for us because there's no hockey to watch, but I think it's great that the players all get to go home, spend some time with their families. Nobody plays any games for 3 days, Christmas Eve through Boxing Day. And then everybody comes back to work on the 27th. So kudos to the NHL for doing that, because some of the other pro leagues make their players. And it's not just the players. Of course, they're getting paid very well, and they would probably have no trouble playing. But you got all the arena workers, too. And those people don't want to work on Christmas. Nobody wants to work on Christmas.
Very true.
All right, let's move on to our minor league hockey minute. And you wanted to talk about the Hartford Wolfpack.
I did. And, Wayne, I don't know. You've been to games in the Hartford Civic Center, and I don't want to overstep what you say. But what do you think about Hartford and the Rangers' commitment in the AHL, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, whether or not they, I don't know if they ever won the AHL championship. But I'll let you.
Well, as far as... Well, let's qualify me attending games in the Hartford Civic Center. I've been there once, and I was 12 years old at the time. I went and saw a Hartford Whalers against Edmonton Oilers game back in 1986. So it's been a long time since I've been in that arena, but yes, I have been in that arena once.
Right.
And I know they've gone through several upgrades and renovations since then.
Right.
But the fact that the reason I know it's not up to NHL standards is that arena is not built like the modern arenas of today with the lower bowl and an upper bowl that comes over the lower bowl to bring the upper bowl seats a little bit closer to the ice.
Right.
The Hartford Civic Center has seats that just keep on going up and up and up and up. So if you're in the upper reaches of that arena, you are a long ways away from the ice.
Right.
And there's still only 14,000 and change seats in that building. Mm-hmm. And the NHL, obviously with that few number of seats and the fact that the lesser valued seats, I guess if you want to call it that, the higher up seats are so far away from the ice, the NHL just says this is not an NHL arena. But it's perfect for AHL.
Right.
And having the team in Hartford is a good thing for the Rangers, because if a situation where they need to call up a goalie at a moment's notice, he's what, a 2-hour drive from the Garden?
No question about that. That's a very good point, and I agree. My point is, I don't think the Rangers have been committed to that team as much as they could be, and that team has not performed like other teams in the AHL for a team like the Rangers. They just haven't done enough, I feel, for their farm team, and the performance has showed.
Well, the Rangers are one of those teams, because of the market they play in and the size of their fan base and the size of their following. They have the luxury of essentially being able to build their team by simply buying the team. Now, granted, they still can't spend more than the salary cap, but they can spend at the salary cap, whatever that cap is, every single year without even thinking about it, because they're going to make the money. They're one of those markets that don't have to worry about if they're spending at the cap whether or not they're going to make money. They're going to get their money. I mean, it's one of those markets. So they haven't put a lot of emphasis on building a strong farm system, because they know that if the team starts getting a little too weak, the next summer they can just go out and buy the best free agent available, provided they have the cap space.
And they've grown as a team in a lot of seasons by not from the draft. They've grown from acquiring players and veterans that are already NHL players, or the occasional guy coming up from the AHL team. But they haven't done – I'm using this as a preface because I believe the Rangers could do a lot more with their farming philosophy than they have. And let's see if that happens. They hired a guy named Keith McCambridge as their new coach, and my minor league minute involves him and what he's doing right now as far as heading up the Rangers farm program. But I think we're in agreement that the Rangers are a unique team in that they are not. You look at the Carolina Hurricanes and the Charlotte Checkers, you see a definite correlation. The Checkers are a very good AHL team. And so it's no question that the Hurricanes are on the rise because they have a good farm team in place.
Yeah, and they've been stockpiling. Yeah, they've been stockpiling picks over the years and trying to grow their team from within. They know they're not going to go out and be able to compete for the big name. They're not going to go out and get a Shattenkirk. They're not going to go out and get these big name players that end up on the free agent market, because for whatever reason the players don't view Carolina as an option, particularly players that want to win. Carolina doesn't have the traditional winning, other than that one Stanley Cup year, but that was so long ago. They just don't have that reputation around the league, so they're not going to land those players. So they know they have to build their team from within. And they've put a major focus on that, and it shows because how good their AHL team is, the Checkers.
That's right.
And the Bruins have done kind of in between, where they've done a mix every once in a while when they absolutely need to fill a hole and they know they don't have it in their farm system. They have gone out and got the free agent, but then they've had summers where they've done nothing because they feel like they can be patient and wait for their young kids to come up. Like this past summer, they really didn't go out and get anybody.
Right.
So
I'm not trying to bash the Rangers as much as I am to say that they could improve. And this article is entitled "Keith McCambridge Staying Patient with the Wolfpack." When the New York Rangers hired Keith McCambridge to coach the Wolfpack, they did so with the hope a new voice and direction would help their AHL affiliate reboot after finishing last in the league in 2016-17. "We have been able to learn and grow as a group," McCambridge said after practice Thursday. "They are learning what the AHL is about, how fast the program is, and how little time and space you have to react. We are pleased with the development of our guys now. Still, things have been moving slowly. The Wolfpack sat 10-12, 3-2, 7th in the 8-team Atlantic Division. Their 74 goals are the fewest in the division, and their 96 goals against are tied for last. But the team has played better of late with just one loss in its last 5 games. When you look at your team forming during the season, we feel like its identity is starting to take shape," McCambridge said. We've added some new personnel with our lineup, and it probably took us 5 to 7 games longer than usual to do this. So when you are trying to get your identity on track, let me read that again. It has taken us 5 to 7 games longer than usual to do. So you are trying to get your identity on track. But we like the way we are playing. Our practice and games ups and downs during the season as guys learn and develop, but our style and culture are in a good place here. One of the areas of major transition has been in goal. On December 6th, the Rangers signed free agent, and we reported on this podcast, Marek Mazanec, and assigned him to the Wolfpack. Then last Friday, the Rangers reassigned first-year pro Chris Nell from the Wolfpack to the Adirondack Thunder of the ECHL, leaving the team with Alexander Georgiev and Mazanec. We're looking for more balance, McCambridge said. Mazanec adds to our experience with our first-year goalie in Georgiev. The Rangers have been trying to upgrade the Wolfpack in other areas as well, even though they took away one of their young stars this week. On Wednesday, the Rangers loaned one of their brightest young players, rookie center Filip Chytil, 18, to the Czech Republic team for the upcoming World Junior Championships in Buffalo from December 26th to January 5th. And of course, Chytil did start at the first of the season as a sidelight in the NHL. He did play 2 games before he was sent down to Hartford. Chytil, the 21st overall selection in 2017, appeared in the first 2 NHL games of his career with the Rangers, and has 5 goals and 7 assists with the Wolfpack. The shakeup actually began October the 21st when the Rangers acquired defenseman Ryan Sproul from the Red Wings for Matt Pumple and assigned Sproul, 24, to Hartford. We have 3 first-year players on the back end, so Sproul adds a lot of experience for us, McCambridge said. 3 days later, the Rangers recalled forward Boo Nieves from the Wolfpack, and he had played in only 7 games with the Wolfpack this season with 2 goals and 1 assist. That's just part of the AHL, McCambridge said. I don't even refer to it as losing a player. It's all about him advancing to the NHL. We are trying to put our players in position to succeed. Finally, on November 30th, the Rangers acquired forward Peter Holland, who has played 243 NHL games over 6 NHL seasons with 3 teams from the Montreal Canadiens in exchange for Adam Cracknell. Holland, 26, had started in 20 games with the AHL's Laval Rocket with 8 goals and 10 assists. He already has 2 goals and 3 assists in his first 5 games in Hartford. Holland adds some more depth in the middle, McCambridge said. He's more in the mold of the type of player the organization felt it needed depth in. You can see his experience during games. He's a smart player. So I guess my take on things is the Rangers do seem like they are trying to form a team that at least competes a little better than they do. And we'll see the time will tell how they do as far as competing in that division that they're in. We'll see if they make improvements and can move up in the standings.
Yeah, and having a good farm system makes it so they don't have to work that much harder on free agent day.
That's right. Which is what they've had to do the last few years.
Right. But, all right. Well, cool. My pick of the week is actually an announcement that came down from the AHL. And let me pull up that story. Here we go. Just froze on me. All right. Scott Pellerin and Craig Cunningham have been selected to serve as the honorary captains for the 2018 AHL All-Star Classic, presented by Turning Stone Resort Casino, to be held January 28th and 29th in Utica, New York. Each year, the All-Star Classic honorary captains join the participating teams in the locker room and on the benches during the event and are recognized for their careers at the annual AHL Hall of Fame induction and award ceremony. Scott Pellerin began his professional hockey career in Utica, debuting with the AHL's Utica Devils in the 92 Calder Cup playoffs and tallying 33 points in 27 games as a rookie during the 92-93 season. Pellerin would go on to skate in 328 games in the AHL, winning Calder Cup championship in Albany in 1995, and played 536 more contests in the NHL with New Jersey, St. Louis, Minnesota, Carolina, Boston, Dallas, and Phoenix. Pellerin was an assistant coach for the AHL's Manchester Monarchs from 26 through 2012 and head coach of the Bridgeport Sound Tigers from 2012 to 14. He's currently serving as director of player development for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And by the way, Scott Pellerin is a UMaine alum, which now you know why I picked this story. His number 8 is retired at the University of Maine. He's one of only 2 numbers that are retired at Maine. No, 3 now. It was 2. Number 8 is him. Number 9, Paul Kariya, and number 19, Jim Montgomery, who's now the head coach of the Denver Pioneers. And, of course, we all know about Craig Cunningham. He's in his first season as a scout with the Arizona Coyotes, following 6 seasons of pro hockey that included 319 games in the AHL. The captain of the Tucson Roadrunners during their inaugural season last year. He's been an inspiration for the entire hockey community through his recovery and rehabilitation following a career-ending and life-threatening medical emergency last November. Cunningham, who also skated in 63 NHL games with Arizona and Boston, received the 2016-2017 Fred T. Hunt Memorial Award as the AHL player who best exemplifies sportsmanship, determination, and dedication to hockey. So kudos to those 2 guys.
Yes.
And of course, Cunningham has some Bruins ties as well. So
very good.
All right, let's move on to college hockey. And starting with the University of Maine, their last games that they played, they swept Quinnipiac on the road, 7-4 and 5-3. So Maine is now 8-7-1, 4-4-1 in Hockey East, heading into their Christmas break. So it's the best pre-Christmas that Maine has had in years. So people in Maine are very excited about that.
Yeah.
Now, as far as upsets are concerned, last weekend, I'm talking about last weekend now. So Friday the 8th and Saturday the 9th and Sunday the 10th. Back on Friday, Canisius beat Niagara. Niagara's the number 20 team, and that was a 4-2 win for Canisius. Number 7, Minnesota lost to number 15, Ohio State, 2-1 in overtime. Number 17, Minnesota Duluth lost to unranked Omaha, 7-5. Number 11, Western Michigan lost to Miami, 5-2. Miami's unranked. Number 16, Colgate lost to unranked Connecticut, 4-2. On Saturday night, unranked Canisius beat Niagara again, 8-2 this time. And number 7, Minnesota lost at number 15, Ohio State again, 4-1. Unranked RIT beat number 9, Providence, 4-0. And number 13, New Hampshire lost to Army West Point, 4-3. And on Sunday, there were a couple upsets as well. New Hampshire lost again to unranked Merrimack 4-3, and unranked Massachusetts beat number 19 Union 2-1. Now, as far as this week, there's no games this week coming up where ranked teams are playing each other. There's only 16 games total going on around the country, so a lot of teams are already in their Christmas break. And then next week, there's no games at all in the NCAA, so there won't be any games until December 28th after these 16 games this weekend. So things are quieting down for a little while in college hockey as all the kids are going on our Christmas break. Now, taking a look at the pairwise rankings, I'm going to take a step away from the U.S. College Hockey Online poll for the week. The rankings in the pairwise, I'll go 16 down to 1 because 16 teams make the NCAA tournament, and this pairwise ranking is a very good predictor on who's going to make the NCAA tournament. So at number 16 is Minnesota Duluth, number 15 Omaha, number 14 Boston College, number 13 Northeastern, number 12 Providence, number 11 Penn State, number 10 Western Michigan, number 9 Minnesota, number 8 Ohio State, number 7 North Dakota, number 6 Minnesota State, number 5 Cornell, number 4 Denver, number 3 Clarkson, number 2 Notre Dame, and number 1 this week in the pairwise is St. Cloud State. Now, if I didn't mention your team, then your team has work to do in order to get into the NCAA at-large picture. Obviously, any team can still get in the NCAA tournament by simply winning their conference tournament. Mm-hmm. But as far as at-large bids are concerned, if you're not in probably the top 12 or 13, you're not getting in.
Right.
All right, let's move on to our picks of the week. And I didn't write down yours. I know you texted me. What was your pick of the week story was?
My pick of the week, Wayne, if you read the tea leaves in our previous podcast, I leave the college hockey talk to you. And I never want to overstep that. But I had, if you read the tea leaves, there is a favorite team I pull for in college hockey, and I'm sure you know who it is. But I am a Notre Dame Fighting Irish fan. And you might not like that, but it's the truth. And you gotta mention them. You gotta mention them as a pick of the week this week because they're playing unbelievable. And I just felt like as a pick of the week this week, I'm going to talk about them real briefly, and we'll get on to yours, or if you want to go first, by all means.
Go for it.
The Irish are up to number 3 in both polls. I'm very excited about this, and I'm actually reading an article right directly off their website after posting a road sweep at Wisconsin for the first time in the program's history and extending its winning streak to 13 games. The University of Notre Dame hockey team moved up to number 3 in both the USCHO and the USA Today polls. Notre Dame is on a 13-game winning streak, which is the longest active winning streak in the country. It is the 3rd longest winning streak in team history. The team won 15 in a row in 83-84 and 14 in a row in 87-88. But in 83-84, the Irish competed under club status. Notre Dame is also 10-0-0 in conference play in the Big Ten this season, making it the first Big Ten team ever to win its first 10 conference contests of the season. Jake Evans leads the country in scoring with 26 points on 7 goals and 21 assists. Goalie Cale Morris leads the country with a .5954 save percentage and is tied for the national lead with 15 wins at 15-1-0. The Fighting Irish are the only team without a road loss this season. They are 8-0-0, and their 8 road wins are tied with Minnesota State for the most road wins in the country. Up next for Notre Dame, after they return from their Christmas break, they will face a Big Ten matchup against Michigan in Ann Arbor at 6:30 p.m. on Friday, January 5th. The game will air live on Big Ten Network. So kudos to Notre Dame. They started out, and it seems like they had a way that they were going to move up. They started out, it was at NCHC, and then they moved into the Hockey East. They've been
bouncing around,
bouncing around, move their way up. Now I think they're where they're going to stay, and that's in the Big Ten.
Yep.
And so I'm pleased that they're doing so well their first season there, and I don't think anybody gave them a shot or really believe they would. So kudos to them. That's my pick of the week.
Yeah, and I was very happy to find out that Notre Dame was actually moving out of Hockey East because they're good. I mean, they've had a good program there. The coach, Jeff Jackson, is a very good coach going way, way back. When Maine won their 2 national championships back in the 90s, he was the head coach for Lake Superior State University at the time. And they were a powerhouse. It seemed like Maine was playing Lake State. I know they met in the NCAA tournament more than once.
Right.
And a couple of times Lake State beat them, and Maine finally beat them in the championship game of the 93 NCAA tournament. That was their year that Korea and Montgomery and all those guys lost only 1 game all year. But anyway, he's brought that Notre Dame, because for a long, long time, at least during that era, Notre Dame was kind of a laughingstock. They weren't that good. But once they landed him as their coach, they got relevant in a hurry.
Yeah.
So
Yep. So thank you, Wayne, for a chance to say something.
All right, cool.
And
all right, well, I will go on to my pick of the week, which is kind of a funny story. Actually, I don't know if you saw the video, but I happened to be watching NHL Network earlier this week, and they had a video on there where Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin, of course, they're fierce competitors, teammates for the Pittsburgh Penguins. They decided they were going to have a race. Now, of course, you would think they'd race their cars, but no, they're not racing cars. They raced Zambonis.
Yeah.
They actually took, and I'm not sure where, I'd assume that this was at their practice rink, but they got two identical Zambonis, and they went on a head-to-head winner-take-all race. They had to drive the Zambonis through cones placed in a parking lot, and the race came down to a photo finish. And it's hard to tell if either came close to hitting the machine's top speed of 9.7 miles per hour, but the race was thrilling, whatever speed they got up to. Crosby wore his best game face, but in the end, it was Malkin who pulled out the narrow win and gave his trusty ice resurfacing machine a victory kiss before congratulating Crosby for second place. And of course,
couldn't you see those two in a NASCAR competing environment? The Intimidator, Evgeny Malkin.
Yeah. So, of course, there's a link to that video in the show notes if you want to see the video for yourself. I got it right off of NHL.com, so not hard to find. But, yeah, if you do that, you'll find the race there. So, great time.
Yes, absolutely.
All right,
absolutely.
So that pretty much wraps things up for this week. I know it's been a long one, but of course it's been 10 days since we last did one, so we had a lot to get caught up on. So next scheduled podcast actually is only a few days away, Thursday the 21st. Tentatively, that could change depending on our schedules.
Right.
I know I've got some overnight shifts coming up, so if we end up doing it, we'll talk about it more off stream anyway. But I can probably do one earlier in a day, at least on those days where I'm scheduled to work overnights. I know I've got 2 overnights leading into the Christmas holiday that I can do, so we can do it then. So, all right. Well, that's pretty much it for the week, so we'll go ahead and wrap things up. And until next week, Steve, I will see you then.
Absolutely. Great working with you. Hope you have a good week.
You too.
We'll see you soon.
All right. Have a good one.
Good night.
Good night.